I've never been kicked out of the house before, so I just went on the sidewalk and I just fell asleep there.
You were starting over at age 30.
Because I look like this, I would not get the credit for it.
Your videos about being laid off from Discord, over 25 million people have seen this.
I had so much hate, and people were just telling me I would never get hired again.
It was being laid off that has freed you so much creatively.
What I don't want is to be silenced.
Do you believe in destiny?
Oh my God.
3 months ago, Chloe Shih lost her job. She's a top product manager at Discord until they laid her off. It sucked. She made the most of it and created videos about the experience that went viral, getting over 20 million views. That's what Chloe does. When her parents kicked her out onto the streets, when her colleagues bullied her so hard she left the country, when her coworkers gaslit her and took credit for her work, Chloe takes shitty things that happened to her and turns them into growth. Today, she's a full-time creator that makes over 6 figures, has hundreds of companies recruiting her to work together, and just got married to the love of her life where they bought a house together. I'm so excited to share Chloe's story with you today. And if you enjoy our conversation, Chloe and I are launching our own podcast together, the JOMO Pod, about the joy of missing out, where every week we talk about important things like money, relationships, and family. Subscribe via the link below to follow our journey. 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
That was excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for making time to join the pod today, Chloe.
It's been such a long time coming, Eric.
It has.
I've been wanting to be on this pod forever.
And all it took was you hitting over 100,000 on YouTube and getting laid off from Discord.
Well, it do be like that.
Earlier this morning, you told me that your lower back hurts.
Yes.
And obviously, that makes sense because 1, we are old. We are now 30 and 30 plus. And 2, you've been carrying the weight of the world on you.
Oh, that's not true at all.
You literally are collecting every single achievement, graduated from an Ivy League college. You've worked at TikTok, Meta, Google, not to mention Discord, and have built an entire career as a creator as well.
Thank you.
And now at age 30, your most recent video, you talked a bit about starting over. That Discord laying you off has now opened up a set of choices that you might not have considered doing yourself. So tell me more. How are you feeling right now?
The news is still pretty fresh. It's a lot. First time being laid off. I think when it happened, I was really shocked for sure. But I knew that that's just part of the tech industry. It do be like that for real. And it's not a personal thing. It sucks for sure. But it's something that we have to just accept. 40% of Americans get laid off. And in the tech industry, I don't know what the stat is, but I imagine it would be higher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when it happened, I was like, okay, well, I need to figure out what's next. I need to move on. I think when I posted it and going through the entire week after, the most shocking thing to me was how people responded. I got a lot of love. I got a lot of hate. I got a lot of news media outlets in my DMs.
The Wall Street Journal literally wrote about you.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. I didn't see that.
I mean, you declined to comment, which they noted you declined to comment.
What? What?
Yeah,
That's
they're
so
like,
rude.
oh, we reached out to Chloe and she emailed us back saying she was really busy and then didn't reply. So we're writing about her anyways.
Well, that's so mean.
Yeah.
What the heck? I have a lot of messages I need to go through. I have a lot of work to do.
I think it's because, so when I was fired from my last job at Coinbase, before leaving and starting Karat, I felt such a deep sense of shame and embarrassment that I suck. I didn't tell people for years. And you have been so open about this experience. You've become this symbol, this lightning rod, where on the one side, people have pointed toward you as a courageous voice, showing that, hey, when the big company fires or lays you off or takes action against you, you have a way to speak up. Your videos about being laid off from Discord have in less than a week, 25 million views.
I know.
The population of the United States is around 320 million. That means close to, if you apply apples to apples, 1 in 10 people have seen your videos.
No way.
Talking about being laid off from Discord, what you're doing after, the experience itself. And your Instagram has grown from 100,000 to over 160,000 similarly in just a few days.
Correct.
How does it feel that you've put a lot of time and energy into beautifully crafted videos that got you to that first 100,000, but it's about being laid off that got you another 50% boost and 25 million views in itself?
Yeah, that's my first time going Omega viral. I remember when he posted it, a lot of people were messaging me about it. It was really sweet. I responded to everyone who texted me, got a lot of DMs, really sweet. I also got a lot of hate. I got retweeted into oblivion on Twitter by...
What are people hating on you for?
So many random things. I got hate for not having books in the back of my office.
That's insane.
They're like, oh, Gen Z doesn't read books anymore. They're so stupid. And I'm like, first of all, I'm not Gen Z. Second of all, does it matter if I don't have books in my office? Like they're on the side. I just moved to a new house. Y'all need to have better things to hate on. Yeah.
I saw one of the comments that you shared with me. There was a guy basically saying, shut the fuck up and go do an OnlyFans.
I think for hate comments like that are so out there and so random, it's really hard for me to take it
So it's the
seriously.
books comment that actually...
Oh, I thought that was funny.
More.
That was funny. Yeah.
At least he was creative about it.
Yeah. It started a whole debate and I was like, why are we doing this?
So how do you think, okay, over 25 million people have seen this, the Wall Street Journals, the New York Times, all these publications
Business Insider
are reaching out to you. When you
Vice.
have a moment, are you trying to capitalize it and really make the most of it that you can? Or is it, look, I don't want to be known for this, and let's try and immediately branch out into other things?
Okay, first of all, from like a content creator standpoint, when you hit a wave, you must go. You must keep going. Like you cannot stop. And you need to ride it as long as possible and keep pushing out. Like it's so hard to have that streak and that break, and it only comes once in a blue moon. You have to be really lucky to hit the algorithm. The second point for me is what you go viral for is what your content should reflect if it's going to be a successful conversion. And obviously, I'm not going to try to make layoff content. Like that's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So I immediately tried to move on. I made my video predicting that I would get laid off. I made my reaction video, and then the rest are just moving on to the next life. That was it. And I actually had comments from friends that we know in my real life, in our real lives, that called me out for saying that they think I'm milking layoff content. And that hurt a lot because you're my friend and you think I am milking this. So I think I had pushed myself to move forward, created new content, new steps, new stages of life, new storytelling formats. My quality bar, my production quality is really high. And yeah, I just wanted to move forward, bring joy.
On the other hand, people have been like, oh, she's never going to get a job ever again.
Oh, I mean, there are companies that will definitely not hire me for sure.
But you've also received, like at this point, over 50, 100 DM requests and potential job opportunities begging for you to come check them out.
Yeah, I'm very lucky in that respect. I mean, it comes with being online and having your profile out there in the industry. Tech is such a small world. I feel like you kind of know like one person from every big tech company. But yeah, I'm very lucky. It is a choice that I consciously made. I knew that the first time that I went public about something really sensitive was when I quit TikTok. And when I posted it, I had so much hate. It was insane. I just never seen that kind of reception before. And people were just telling me I would never get hired again. And it's true. There are companies that don't want employees like this. On the other side, it's self-selected for the ones that want my type of thinking and my charisma and my ability to speak up. So yeah, and also that's that side. I also am very good at my job as a product manager. And there are people who do like far worse things outside of work. Yeah, I try to keep things pretty positive. If they're hating on me, it's probably a company that I would never join anyways. So that's kind of nice.
Having been a product manager myself at Instagram, I remember,
you
know it. I spent so much time thinking about the political side because
I hate it.
Yeah,
you
have to convince people to want to work with you as a product manager because you have influence, not authority.
Exactly.
Not only with your peers, but also with those above you. I've been so impressed with your willingness, even putting aside quitting TikTok, talking about being laid off from Discord, basic work situations where, say, a manager doesn't respect you in what you do, that they speak over you, that they take your ideas, you make content calling them out for it.
That sounds a little backhanded though. It's like, oh, I don't do anything and then I talk bad about them on camera, but I actually am very confrontational like at work. I think what's a little bit different is I have such like a happy persona. Like I have a resting smiling face in RSF, and people have always been really confused what my stance is, because I am actually a pretty straightforward person and I'll call shit out because I think it's bad. And then that kind of difference between their expectations versus reality and what they're hearing is kind of like, it's not something they're used to. So people freak out at me. So I try to like set really clear expectations that this is how I operate. This is like me trying to be on your side, and I will speak up in the moment. And that has rubbed people the wrong way for sure.
They're expecting something. Oh, she looks so bubbly and lovely. And also in my friendship, and I mean this in the best ways possible, you are savage.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So people have asked me what kind of, how would you describe yourself? Like what kind of animal or whatever. And the way that I would describe myself is I'm like a little bear, but like with a knife.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Cute and cuddly, but we'll
kill
fuck you up.
Yeah.
I love how you just straight up said, we'll kill you.
Yeah. What is it like? Looks like a cinnamon roll, but
we'll
is a but we'll kill you. That's me. It looks like a cinnamon roll, but we'll kill you.
When did you realize how people saw you? And when did you decide that, well, this isn't who I am and I'm going to do very different things? If you're a creator, Karat just launched this new insights tool that analyzes your socials and financials to calculate how much you're making today and how much more you could be making. You can compare your earnings to that of other creators like you and see on average how much they make and how they're making it, whether it's AdSense, brand deals, merch, or courses. For this channel, I learned compared to other podcasters of similar size, I'm lagging behind in growth rate and brand deal earnings, so I know how to improve. Try it for free via link in description below, because Karat's mission is to help handle the business side of being a creator. Now back to the podcast. When did you realize how people saw you? And when did you decide that, well, this isn't who I am and I'm going to do very different things?
Actually, I was pretty docile in middle school, high school. Really, really just put my head down, worked really hard, did all my like clubs, and got bullied a lot. I think because I am non-threatening, but when I work hard and I try to do something more than what people expect, people want to like shut me down and they think I'm a really easy target. So I was bullied a lot in high school and college. And I think years after that, I just was so sick of it. I was like, that's so lame. I went through a lot in relationships, in toxic friendships, in a startup that I worked at where I got omega bullied. And it got me to the point where I had to leave America and go to Taiwan and like heal for a month or so just to find myself again, just to build my confidence, just to build who I am. I did like the whole go through 100 rejections to build your confidence. And I think ever since then, I decided to just be me. I think that's so generic, but I'm just so tired. I think people ask me, how do you get over your imposter syndrome? How do you build your confidence? My way is probably not the most healthy, which is I was just so angry. I was so angry. I was so fed up, and my anger and rage just overcame the respectful, kind person that I told myself I had to show up as in the meeting room. I'm like, whatever. I just can't live like that anymore. I'm just angry, and it's not fair. It's not fun. I'm done. I'm done with it. Yeah.
I experienced a version of that too growing up. I also was extremely polite, deferential. I was terrified.
You're still polite. You're so polite.
Sometimes I can be a little more savage as well. You're probably rubbing off on me. I was really afraid always what people would think of me. And it's because of that, I too have adopted this mentality where question everything and everyone because they don't necessarily know any better than you do. And one of the things I've always loved about you has been like, hey, you could have lived an amazing life working a multiple six-figure job in corporate tech. But even before the recent change around the layoffs, you had a full-fledged career as a creator.
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah? But you have hundreds of thousands of followers.
That's now, not before.
Okay, so then how did, because to me, that's a very subversive act. It's like a little bit of a rebellion. I'm going to be a good corporate worker. No, actually, I'm going to work here, but I'm going to continue to pursue an entire creative side of myself as well. Most people don't do that because it's really hard and they're afraid how the creative career will get in the way of their corporate goals. But I do see that as you being you. And so you said that you were bullied really hard. You thought about how to change and redesign your life. You went to Taiwan. When did you begin to see the inner changes manifest into outward changes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've always been in the creative world ever since, I think, college, where I was born and raised in LA. All the YouTubers, especially in the AAPI scene, are here. And I remember applying to work at Wong Fu Productions as an intern, and I didn't get the job. and then they said I was overqualified. And I was like, maybe blessing in disguise. But I really wanted to work there. Then I was a film assistant for Albert Chang, our friend Albert, in college, because we went to college together. And he was then starting his YouTube journey. And I was like helping with videography, and he mentored me. And then I decided, I'm just going to do homework and be a good student and finish my engineering degree.
You when this entire creative reopening, I can do this. And you're like, okay, but I should go finish and be an engineer.
Yeah, I just finished school.
Why?
I don't know. My parents. Yeah, I'm not sure. I really don't think it was worth it. Whatever. I'm a goody two shoes too. Yeah, I like doing things by the rules and finishing, and I'm being a good kid. I do. So I did it.
It's very hard to not only learn how to speak up for yourself when others are bullying you, but also to then, your parents are a huge part of your life.
Oh yeah, for sure.
When you were growing up, when everything was going on, were they there for you? Were they supportive?
I think they went through a lot. They moved over from Taiwan when they were 26, had me. They were not ready. And my dad went to school. He restarted his entire career when I was in middle school and high school. He moved out to New York to go to college.
Wow.
Yeah. And then my mom was alone in LA without knowing English and had to take care of 3 kids and send money to my dad in New York. And so she broke down a lot. And it was really hard. So I had to be a big sister and take care of the brothers. I was not my best self either. I was a horrible older sister, and I feel a lot of guilt to it. I feel a lot of guilt till this day. And we went through a lot of traumatic things. I would say they weren't the most supportive. I remember I loved being in marching band, and they made me quit. And I was crying on my banquet night because they wouldn't let me go to the banquet, even though I won awards.
What's banquet night?
Banquet is the end of the year annual banquet where all the awards are being given out to everyone who did a lot in the year.
Why wouldn't they let you go?
Just because they didn't want that to distract me. Yeah, so I just spent the night crying in the closet.
Don't give her too much validation. She might get a big head.
Yeah. So it do be like that. So sad. But I think they struggled a lot, and I don't hold it against my parents. But I would say I would never want to raise my kids that way. It's not fun. But right now we have a really good relationship. I think I spend a lot of time going back to them and helping them, heal their trauma too, and help them remember that we are a family and we want to move forward together, and we only have each other, and there's no point being mean to each other. So when they're mean to me, mean to my brothers, I lighten up the situation. But I think I built that just because I've been the oldest sister throughout. And yeah, so I really wish they were more there for me. I think things would have turned out very differently, and then it would have probably blossomed sooner in my career or even in college. So yeah, but it's okay. I'm fine.
Childhood trauma make you a more accomplished, a more creative person?
No, I don't believe it. Yeah. But I think it is for me. because that's where I get a lot of my motivation, my why from. But I really do, like they say, oh, whatever doesn't kill you make you stronger. But we don't need to be that strong in life. I think we're good. I think there's a lot of joy to be had, a lot of fun, creative things to do. But I don't think trauma is what you need to be a more like deep person. I think that's, if it happens, I hope we can support each other through the rough times. But I don't think like people I've met who have had a really good upbringing are not as talented or creative or accomplished. Yeah, but it does affect your why. I don't know if I've ever told you the story, but at Columbia, when I did a lot of leadership stuff, like I was a club president of my pre-professional org. A lot of people knew me. I won like awards. And I remember this Korean international student come to ask me to grab coffee because she wanted to ask me about life. And she was like, Chloe, how are you so motivated in life? I'm like, what? What kind of question is that? She's like, yeah, you're always like working so hard. You're studying. You're always going to every class. You're doing all these clubs and you're just so passionate. And I don't have any of that. And for me, I'm from Korea and I graduated from one of the best schools and my family's fine. And I just have to graduate here and I can go back and take over my family's business. I have no reason to work hard. I have no reason to have any passions. I guess I told her more about my upbringing story. And she's like, I think that's the difference. You went through a lot of trauma and therefore you have grit, but I don't have anything. I've always had a cushy life. So my friends and I, we did an experiment where we booked the cheapest Airbnb in Harlem, like less than $100, $50. There's no bed, sleep on the floor. And so we went and we tried to sleep on the floor and we couldn't do it. And at 2 a.m. we went back to our dorms.
Wow. So it's like a rich international student cosplaying as a poor person.
Yeah. I was so shocked.
Coming to you, an actual person who's been through hardship, and be like, how do you do it? I tried sleeping on the floor and I couldn't develop the grit.
I was shooketh. I had no words, Eric. What would you have said?
What I would have thought, don't know if I would have said it, is be like, shut the fuck up. It's not play acting at a version of my life.
Like, it was so messed up in so many levels, but I just didn't know what to say.
I think it goes to your point on this interaction between trauma and doing great things. A lot of people who've done a lot of interesting things have been through a lot of trauma, but I think you're right. It's not necessarily a prerequisite. It just defines the why and the shape of the story, especially because if you necessarily tie the two together, not only, as you said, do you deprive people who, guess what? They actually had healthy, supportive parents. Yeah. They can also do cool things. And you also take away from your own accomplishments because potentially you were to do so many cool things, not because of the trauma, but despite it.
I think so too. Yeah. I also get a little allergic at people who they create a lot of trauma porn. You know, it's like their whole personality is based on their trauma. And I understand that is a really hard thing and you need to process it and you need to go through your own journey. But I do think that it is not the healthiest thing to broadcast that way too much. But if you need to, you must. I will never know and I'll never know where the lines are. I do think that it is much harder to create really creative things for joy than it is to create creative things from trauma. Yeah, it's like this over sensationalizing crazy, evil, negative stuff versus sensationalizing positive things. People just don't find those headlines that exciting.
We all gravitate toward the bad things.
Yeah, it's just easier, just like grabs your attention.
There's this concept I learned maybe 7 years ago from the school of thought called conscious leadership. A lot of Silicon Valley thinkers subscribe to this. And one of their tenets is
it the book, like the 10 something of conscious leadership? I read that book.
Yeah. It states everything's a story where you might think yourself the hero, the villain, the victim, but this is a framing you've just put on yourself. The whole point is you want to recognize when you're operating in a story because then you can break out of the preconceived notions that you have placed on yourself. My reaction was one of two different things I experienced learning this. The first was like, well, this is complete fucking bullshit because like, it's like saying, oh, like, yeah, you don't get to be a victim. Like, just decide you're not one. Like, well, it's like, fuck you. Like, you know, people go through tons of shit. And the second thought I had after thinking about it was like, this this isn't a statement on the nature of justice or injustice in the world. It doesn't say that bad shit doesn't happen to bad people. It's just saying, well, hey, for you to move forward in your own story of how you see yourself, you have to make a choice about your own role. And as someone who also, whenever bad things happen, I tend to internalize these. It's really hard to like create and do new things when you think of yourself just as a victim.
Yeah, I don't like that mindset. And I had adopted that mindset for a long time and I didn't like it. And I just felt like, oh, boo-hoo, I'm so sad. Feel pity on me. Give me attention. And that's very icky.
What changed? Like, that's such a difficult mindset to move out of, especially when you've had legitimately really bad things happen.
I want to say meeting Kevin, actually.
Oh, your fiance. I kind of want to say,
yes.
That's very
my
sweet.
Fiance. Because I think I was a toxic person for a while, very insecure, always a people pleaser. You know how it be.
Yeah.
And I was in a toxic relationship with work and with a boyfriend in the past and with one of my best friends. I was always just trying to get people to connect to me based on how much I was wronged. And like, it's heavy. That's heavy. But life's not that deep. And that kind of energy, actually, I feel weighs me down a lot. But I felt like because that made me feel so alive, like that's the thing that got me going. I wanted to keep pushing on that more. But I think that was not healthy and not fun for people, especially if they're in a different state of mind. But yeah, I met my fiance, Kevin, like 4.5 years ago. And he's a very simple guy from the Midwest, from Michigan. Went to University of Michigan, go blue. And he just has very little opinions on everything. He just likes what he likes, loves gaming, loves hanging out, loves jujitsu. That's it. He doesn't have like any negative things going on. And I thought that was like so weird. I felt, oh, you're just like a shallow person. You have no depth of experiences. How could you possibly connect with me? Toxic. But over time, I realized he just has a really good head on his shoulders. And when the negative things happen, he used to tell me, what do we say when bad things happen? You hate to see it.
Yeah, hate to see it.
You hate to see it. And when good things happen, you love to see it. And ever since then, he just made life so much more joyful. Because bad stuff does happen. There are things you cannot control. And all you can control is how you react. And ever since I had that kind of influence in my life, I always gravitate towards the positive end of reactions. Yeah.
It's surreal to hear you describe it because I've met you in your
Correct.
post-glow era where, yes, you have always focused on the positive, but have always appreciated the hints of darkness.
Yeah, the little
it's like
sprinkle of darkness.
You're
of evil.
watching an anime where you see like the bubbly class president and she's like talking to you, but you see like wisps of like shadow tendrils like
correct.
Like floating around here. Like, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Also too, I'm very much hearing you describe your relationship as Kevin is like golden retriever energy and you are black cat energy.
Man, but I am like a wronged black cat.
Wronged black cat.
Yeah, I've been wronged by
spat on
life,
and stepped on.
But in the body of a golden retriever. Yeah, so then people get really confused.
Right. They assume you're one way. I remember watching some of your recent reels where you pull in your parents even and thinking like, wow, like what an incredibly wholesome and happy relationship. You called them being like, hey, I was laid off. And I remember your parents were like, oh, that's fine.
Yes.
And you mentioned previously, it wasn't always like that. I remember you've mentioned to me before in growing up with them, they kicked you out of your home at one point.
Yeah, I did. Mom and dad kicked me out. It's because I wouldn't, they never kicked me out before because I've always been a really good girl. But then when it came to picking the colleges I wanted to go to, I got into Berkeley and UCLA, and I really wanted to go to UCLA. And they wanted me to go to the Claremont colleges, specifically Pitzer College, because that's the one I got into, because they wanted me to go into pre-med. And they thought I was like really dumb. And if I went to a large university, I'd be so distracted. I can't work on my studies and I need to go to a small liberal arts college where they handhold me. And I I was going to put my statement of intent to UCLA that night. My dad was so mad. He kicked me out. So, and I've never been kicked out of the house before. So I just went on the sidewalk and I just fell asleep there. And then I think really late into the night, my mom did open the door and whispered and was like, come back in. So I wasn't kicked out for very long.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough to be disappointing to the parents. And then there was a time in college. It's really personal, so I don't want to share that much. But they pretty much disowned me. I did something accidentally, and they disowned me for half a year. No contact whatsoever. If they had to talk to me, I think at one time I like went back for my birthday or something, and they yelled at me a lot. I was crying. I'd have to drive to college by myself, and then it'd be to the point where I remember I'd be in a new dorm, and I would know nobody because I went to a lot of different schools, and then I would open my dorm room door and be like, "Oh my God, hi, my name's Chloe. So great to meet you." Close the door, then go against the door inside, and then like sink down and start crying in the dark by myself for hours at hand, just because it was so lonely. But I think, they went through a bad time. They weren't their best selves. I wasn't my best self. And then over time, I just realized that I'm just going to demand a good relationship from my parents. I'm just going to kill it with cuteness. Just a vibe. Just a good vibe.
It's a choice that you made.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I had to do is become financially independent. So check. And then the second is just to come back and be a source of like light for them. And whenever they get mad, I am very silly about it. I am just someone who diffuses situations really well. I think one time my dad got really mad, and I'm like, 你不要凶我, 你不要凶我. It means like, you can't be mad at me. You can't be mad at me. And then he's like, why? And I'm like, it's my birthday. Because it's my birthday. You can't be mad at me. And then he would be really angry too. Starts laughing because how do you take that seriously? And you just kind of forget about it.
I think it really goes back. You described your spirit animal as this cute little bear holding a knife. Where like on the one hand, you're like, it's so adorable. Like, how can I be mad at this bear? And on the other hand, you're like, it will kill me.
Honestly, I do think cuteness is very underrated in the world. And I think it solves all your problems.
Helping people realize the absurdity of being angry.
Okay.
Yeah?
Well, yeah. So
Okay.
I think, once upon a time, I was in Texas, and I was going from Texas to Taiwan, taking the EVA Airlines, like big Boeing 787, whatever. And have you ever seen the Taiwan EVA Airlines Hello Kitty aircraft?
I haven't.
It's insane. So I remember the flight was like leaving at midnight, and then there was like a delay of 1 or 2 hours. I was so angry. And then I was furious. Like, how could they do that? And then I got to the aircraft. Everything was decked out in Hello Kitty. The music, the aprons, the uniform, the pillow, the toilet paper, the lotion, the safety instructions, the lotion, the flight, the TV, like the onboard, the safety instructions. And then I thought to my head, and this is like, I was like, man, if I were ever like a bad terrorist and I was gonna bomb this airplane, I wouldn't. I'd be like, oh my God, I just can't. It's too cute. I guess it's not this one.
It's not like this one. You're looking at it and you're like, but Hello Kitty.
But Hello Kitty. Yeah.
It's like, I need to rethink my life choices.
What can you do? So from then on, I think something changed in my brain. And I was like, wow, cuteness can really solve a lot of problems.
Kill it with kindness. Kill it with cuteness.
If things are cute and kind and adorable, and it just like touches your heart in some way, you're probably just a happier person.
It actually reminds me a lot of the movie Everything Everywhere at Once.
Oh, yeah.
Where you'll remember the belabored husband who has been mostly in the background as this cheery, optimistic guy doing laundry versus Michelle Yeoh, if I pronounced her name correctly, who is a very tortured, complicated individual who's going through all these stories and adventures. She realizes at the end, like, oh, like my husband isn't stupid. He like knows there's tons of really bad things going on. He is choosing
to look on the happy, cute, and goofy side. Like he puts googly eyes in so many of the objects because it is a conscious choice, like you said, to acknowledge the darkness, but try and bring the light as much as possible. It reminds me too, as you've been talking about your relationship with Kevin, right? You said you had been in toxic relationships.
Oh, yeah. Oh, don't even get me started. Oh my God, the regrets, Eric. The regrets, if I could go back in time.
What was the type of person that you were attracted to before Kevin?
The one who was like perfect on paper. I just don't, like the Silicon Valley, like there's a headline there. Like, oh my God, he works at Google. He's a software engineer. He's a manager. He's a VC, blah, blah, blah. He went to Stanford. He did an MD, MBA.
Never again.
Yeah, never.
So then when you met Kevin, you described him as someone you clearly love and appreciate so much. You also described him as, hey, he likes jujitsu. He's an engineer. So what
so
shifted
actually,
this over?
Let me describe him properly once more.
Yes.
Kevin, love him. He's a Kevin. He was a software engineer at Twitch. He loves video games, loves playing Melee, loves pen spinning and speed cubing. And he's just every other copy-paste software engineer that you can pluck off the side of the streets in San Francisco. Really, that was it. That was it. Good old 5'8" Kevin.
Okay, so you went on a first date with him. How did that go?
Basically, we met and then we went to a couple of mutual events. And then I think after one of the events, he texted me and was like, hey, I've been thinking about this for a while now. And I think that you're actually really cool. I'm going to love to take you out to dinner. And to be totally transparent, because I know you hate being debated, because I really hate being debated into a date. I mean this as a date. And I'm like, that's hard. That takes guts. Yeah, exactly.
Good on Kevin. Really
good on Kevin.
Great testicular fortitude there.
What did you say? Testicular fortitude.
Well, I say balls, but this is a classy podcast.
Oh yeah, that's right. This is a classy podcast. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I said it anyway, so it's fine. But good on him asking you out and saying this is a date.
Yeah, and I love that, and of course I must honor it. I've been on the other side before too. I get it. And so, yes, I said yes. We went out to desserts. And then, so, I'm sitting there, right? Looking cute, trying to have a conversation.
Did you made yourself up and everything?
Oh, yeah, of course. Obviously. I mean, it's a date. And I'm like, okay, so what are you looking for in a relationship? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, what? We're on a date. Like, what are you looking for in a romantic relationship? And he's like
panic.
What? No one's ever asked me that before. And I'm like, I mean, certainly you've gone on previous dates before, like, or you have girlfriends before and you know what you like, what you don't like. And he's like, no, this is my first time. And I'm like, what? And he's like, oh yeah, this is my first time. And then I'm like, you mean like a first girlfriend? Or he's like, no, this is my first date. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. You made it this far.
How old is he?
I think at the time he was 23.
Very brave and vulnerable of him to share that.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I was shocked. I'm like, there's no way. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to knock him. That's just tough, man. So I'm like, it's okay. We can talk about something else. You got friends? I got friends. What do you look for in friendship? And he's like, what? I don't know. No one's ever asked me that before, too. And I see a sweat come down the side of his face. And he's like, takes a napkin, kind of dabs it.
Dabs.
Yeah. And then I'm like, what do you like in your friends? And he's like, oh, I just like it when people like to hang. And I'm like, oh boy, I don't think this is it. This is
too. Why did you keep dating him? What changed?
That's a long story. I feel like we can get into it another time.
Yeah.
But basically, he is someone who maybe doesn't have the most exciting first impression, is not a headliner, but is someone who is there constantly, time and time again. He is there for you. And he is really understanding, forgiving, loving, supportive. And he just wants everyone to be happy. He's made me a better person. He was there during really all of my hard times, and he never gave up on me.
Wow.
And he's the type to turn towards, not away, not against. It's not a competition. Yeah.
It reminds me, going back to Everything Everywhere at Once, there's a world where the woman and his husband are like not together. And they're these extremely glamorous, fancy headliners. She's like a famous movie actress. He's like an absurdly rich, wealthy businessman. And it stems from a choice they made early on to not be together because, you know, she was like, he doesn't have a future, and her father didn't approve, but they reunite. And now they're all like sophisticated and glamorous, but they're not together. And as I'm sure you remember, he says the line, in another world, I would have been happy just to do laundry and taxes with you.
Yes. Yes.
Like to be, as you said, what you felt from Kevin, to be with you, even when it's not glamorous and exciting. Meeting Kevin helped you move past the toxicity.
Oh, yeah. I think I let that just define me a lot. I would just be like, this dark aura around me, this dark cloud. And I would always be, my mind would be in the past, and I would always feel wronged by the people who hurt me. And yeah, he just helped me move forward. I don't have to live like that.
Yeah.
That was a lot. That was a lot. I carried a lot of things.
I heard you describe that you'd be in college and literally you'd be all bubbly and perky and be like, hi, like I'm Chloe. And you close the door and you just feel so alone.
Yeah.
And for me, I've experienced really similar things on, hey, like I want to ensure people think of me as someone they want to get to know, because if they don't, I will be alone. And funnily enough, that mentality itself, I'd feel really alone because I was thinking back to my own experiences growing up. Gosh, it's like if I did anything wrong and seemed a little bit less than perfect, yeah, I also would get punished from my parents too. I am astounded with you describing a place where you didn't like pick the right college that your parents wanted, like from amazing choices, by the way. Like you go to Berkeley and UCLA and they're like, no, we want you to go to a liberal arts school because we don't think you're good enough, to kicking you out. That's like the most conditionally definition of conditional love possible out there, to now going to a place of confidence where like you have shared, you're starting over at age 30 and in a way, Discord laying you off, that's a good thing because you can now own it and do all these other cool things.
Yeah, I think it was a very good shift in mindset, and I really wish I'd found that about myself much earlier instead of being dark, gloomy Chloe. But I love myself way more, and all I want is to spread that amongst my friends, uplift everyone, and I just want to see everyone really joyful.
And your content too, there's a lot of positivity. It recognizes the realness of shitty situations, but it frames it differently.
I try my best. I know a lot of my content stems from like negative stories. I think that is just one and done. Just like close that chapter, move forward. Hopefully that helps someone. But I do want to help people adopt a healthier mindset to take back control of their narrative of their own lives and not let shitty situations define who they have to show up as every single day.
You no longer have to write your story as just the
victim. Yeah.
When you think of your story now, what type of character are you?
Oh my God. I think a little bit cheeky, quirky, a little weird, a little crazy in like a fun way.
So clearly, obviously main character energy.
Yeah, just, I watch so much anime.
Cool. What type of anime? If you had to think of an anime character, let's take one that we both know, like Bleach or Naruto.
No, I can't do that. Do you know Kaguya Love is War?
Of course I know Kaguya Love is War. I've read the
pink
entire
hair
manga.
girl.
Okay, so I read the manga,
Chika.
which is black and white.
No, she's the best friend. She's the second.
Oh, Chika.
Chika, yeah.
Wait, isn't her hair blonde?
It's pink.
Okay, again, I have read the manga. I have not seen the color. Yeah, I know Chika.
Like chaotic energy, positive.
Chika is like the daughter of an extremely powerful family.
Doesn't take things very...
it's
very lighthearted.
90% of the plot is very airy, airheaded.
Yeah, very
and like
airheaded.
goofy and like plays these funny board games. But 10%, there's clearly more behind the facade.
Yes.
Where she is like very smart. I will say though, the story ends a little interestingly. This is spoilers, by the way. So they show an epilogue. Oh, you haven't seen it?
I only watched the anime, so I don't know how far the manga is.
So I'll say the epilogue shows who the characters become in the future. And there is a depiction of Chika.
Is this a spoiler that I can listen to?
I feel that this will color your perception.
Oh, no.
So all I'll say is you see in that future version of Chika, another version of her that was always like present amongst the edges, but really comes out much more.
Okay. okay, I gotta go back home and check it out.
Yeah. I kind of love that character for you because
Yeah, I'm Chica.
she is, like you said, cheeky, but so much more than you thought. It's funny because I'm very grateful that we're friends. But for context, we met initially over LinkedIn DMs, and
True.
it almost didn't happen because I didn't reply to your last DM. I left you on read.
Yeah. So I think I posted on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Eric saw my LinkedIn, DM'd me saying, hey, want to grab coffee sometime?
Yeah, I thought what you did was really cool.
I respond back saying, yes, I would love to. When do you want to meet? Ghosted. My guy ghosted me. Then, like a few weeks later, I show up to a random house party in God knows where, and it apparently was a Streamer Awards after party where he was at, and I recognized his face because I watched the Karat podcast because I followed him on Instagram after, and then I went up to him and I was like, "Oh my God, hey Eric!" And then I can see everything in slow motion. He turns to him and he's like, hi. And then he's like going through his Rolodex of names. And then I'm like, I'm Chloe.
I remember who you were.
We've never met before.
Also, in my defense, you looked different than your LinkedIn photo. In your LinkedIn photo, you have red hair and glasses.
Yeah. I need to go get...
Do you see red hair on this woman?
Yo, I had a great red hair face.
Do you see glasses?
It was an era. It was a legendary era. But that's how we met. And then you invited me to pickleball. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm going to go to pickleball.
We really have gotten to know each other the past year. I especially appreciate during EDC, where both of us went sober, by the way. Side note, no drinking, no drugs. What I remember being really surprised by was that you had a history of being in toxic relationships. Because I was like, you're so wholesome with Kevin, but you previously hadn't been. It's like you had made all these changes in your life.
Therapy helped. That's right. Forgot about therapy. I had therapy for so long. Yeah.
How long?
6 years.
Wow. I've been doing therapy for 4 years, but I didn't do it for so long because there's so much stigma. And I remember my parents, I had this whole story in my head. It's like, we need therapy, you're mentally weak. How did you make that decision to start with it?
Well, I was down in the dumps and in the dark, dark pits of depression.
Yeah.
After I went through my first breakup with last toxic guy, that was really rough.
So first breakup with this guy, so you had multiple breakups with this guy.
It's like one of those... He dumps you 3 times and keeps coming back to you and was like, hey, I love you. You're so beautiful. I want to forever with you. And you're like, oh, okay, fine. It's like that.
Oh.
I know. So dumb. Fool me once, like something. Shame on you. Fool me twice. Shame on me. Something.
Fool me 3 times. Therapy.
Yeah, exactly. That was what it was. So I went to get therapy. I was really, really down in the dumps. It was horrible. And I did it. Yeah, it's great.
Very similar for myself. So in 2019, I had also just been through a breakup and also was just going through a lot of existential questions around. Very similar to you, I was working the corporate path. I had been at big financial consulting tech companies for a while, was also a product manager, and felt all of these creative impulses I want to do. Unlike you, had not started to do content or channeled it into anything, and was so scared, so terrified to leave my job. It's like, when you're down in the dumps enough, like either you're gonna make a change or like you will like cease to exist. That's depression. You're kind of like, well, yeah, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're kind of like, cool, like I should try this, or like, well, I guess I can just, not. So that's why I started therapy. And I remember in our first few sessions, I've actually had the same therapist for 4 years.
Yeah.
I was still like really skeptical of it. But like literally every time she just like asked me about my family, I'd just like start crying. Not like, oh, but like the tears were just coming well out. And I was like, okay, like clearly I have things to work through.
No,
and then she recommended I do an outpatient program at like El Camino Hospital down in Palo Alto, where you're supposed to like, it's called like a partial hospitalization. You're supposed to like go and just like stay there for like 8 hours a day. But like you can like go home and sleep in your own bed.
The hospital?
What's up?
The hospital?
Yeah, you're supposed to like go to the hospital for like 8 hours a day and like go through sessions and everything.
Okay.
And I remember being like, oh, like things are so miserable. Let's try it out. But it was an amazing experience because for the first time, it was like these people, you don't know their names. So you know nothing about them. There's no like, it's very hard to feel judged by them or judge them because like you don't know who they are. And like I will never see them ever again in my life, ever.
Yeah.
So it was like one of the best experiences in my life. I actually cut it short because my manager called me. And she was basically like, what's happening? Like, are you coming back? And I told her, like, I want to quit. And I still remember I took this call while I was at El Camino Hospital in this program. And I pick up this call from her and I tell her I'm quitting. And she goes, but what would your parents think?
Why would she say that?
I don't know.
That's so irrelevant. You're an adult.
But I felt so frustrated. Like, why would it matter what my parents think? Can I not make my own decisions?
Also, that is so condescending for an adult to
Yeah.
tell another adult, like, if them making their own decision,
Yeah.
what would your parents think?
Yep. I was just like, what the f? Like, it doesn't matter what my parents think. I want to quit. In retrospect, I realize now because it looks bad for her when her reports leave. And for that manager, something like 7-8 people left under her over the course of like that year. So,
Sounds like a her problem.
Yeah, it didn't really end up working out. Who knows? But at the time, I was just like, not obviously focused on her story and what she's going through. I was just like, what?
Yeah.
And I think having gone through a lot of experiences with my parents, I've just developed this like extremely stubborn, both like resistance toward authority, but also still caring what authority thinks. It's like both.
Yeah.
It's like I actually do care what this perceived manager or superior or whatever thinks, but I also very consciously want to be like, no, I don't care.
It's a hard thing to balance.
You have now entered a phase of life where like you could probably theoretically do whatever you want, at least for like a little bit of time. What are you planning to do now?
Oh my God.
Like when you
We
wake
went
up in
through
the
so
morning,
much.
like what are your days like?
It's been really hectic, actually. I've been sleeping very little, and it's been back-to-back calls. My phone's blowing up. I got a lot of messages for new steps, new opportunities. People want to reconnect and collaborate or start a company or like join their company. It's so much. I've been taking design classes too at Art Center.
You didn't do design before.
No, I didn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you really decide to lean into something new, something more artistic?
Yeah. I'm taking typography.
Fonts,
Yeah. Beautiful.
serif, sans serif.
Oh, you know your stuff. It's really fun. Yeah, I love it a lot. So it's a good time.
You really, I'm surprised to hear you didn't have an artistic background before
don't.
because you've
I
drawn
suck.
very cutesy graphics and animations. I remember like you did a podcast 3 years ago.
I did.
And the overlays are these incredibly cute characters. I remember you told me you drew yourself.
I did, yes.
Yeah. When
Yeah.
did you start drawing?
I never. I don't know.
But you drew those characters.
I did, yes. I got an iPad and got Procreate and just started drawing. I think I drew in high school, like doodles in my homework to try to emulate anime and manga, but nothing formal because I've always thought, oh, I'm not a creative person. I'm not artsy enough. I got to go study hard. My parents are not creatives, yada, yada. But have you ever done the thing when you're 1 year old and you have to like pick up the little item?
Yeah. A lot of Koreans do this. Also, like the
Mm-hmm.
Dalai Lama does this. Also, Aang from Avatar did this too.
Yeah. What did you pick up?
Well, I didn't do this, but I'm
Oh.
familiar with it. What did you choose? It's
An
called,
art-
I think in Korean, it's called like a doge, a doj,
Like Doge? Like
like the
Doge?
like the doggo. No, okay, I'm saying a doll. It's called a doll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do it in Taiwanese culture too, I think.
Oh,
And I picked up an art brush.
wow. What were the other choices? Do you remember?
I have no idea, but does it matter?
I kind of love though that you're fulfilling your destiny. So there's a
know.
couple questions that come from that. The first is, yeah, you said for a long time you didn't think of yourself as a creative artistic person. Like you
Mhm.
studied engineering.
I know, and I was pre-med too.
Pre-med.
And I was going to do
This is insane.
mathematics. And I almost minored in computer science.
This is like literally like the stereotypical every single non-liberal arts
I
STEMmy engineering thing you could do. When did you realize you were creative? Like when did you make your first piece of content?
Bro, took a while. Okay, so backtrack, college, right? Still didn't think I was creative. Graduated. Well, actually, I've been taking pictures for a really long time.
Like
high,
photos.
high school, I was the historian for a lot of my clubs, and then I was a photographer for the newspaper. So I always had that like documentation.
You were that girl.
I was that girl. And I took people's graduation pictures and then went to Google, not creative, went to my startup. And then I was in creator partnerships. I led the creator partnerships team and focused on the gaming clientele. Flew down to LA a lot, worked with a lot of Twitch streamers, YouTube content creators, was always on like the production side.
Mhm.
And I would pitch the story and what the campaign looks like and execute and go through contracts. I was always behind the camera, never in front.
Mm.
Yeah. But I've always like wanted to, but I always thought, oh, I don't think I have what it takes.
Uh-huh.
Also like insecurities about how I look, whatever, stuff like that. Oh, I went to Facebook after that. And then I went to TikTok. And during that transition, I think that was when I met Kevin. And then I finally moved out of my space in San Francisco, out of my disgusting little San Francisco apartment where I lived with 2 other people. So tiny. It was so tiny and no privacy whatsoever. I didn't even have a real door. It was like this sliding doors.
Oh, you had like a divider?
Yeah,
thingy?
it was like a den. It was a den. It was so expensive. And I finally like got my first product manager job, was able to pay for my own place in SF. So I got to move out. And then that was the first time I had my own physical space. And Kevin helped me pick out the cameras because I was like, I really want to try. I really want to try. I feel like I have something to say. I've always done poetry. I did like slam and spoken word at events, but I wanted to broadcast even more. That was when I decided to make my first videos on YouTube. And I started with career content because that was the thing I had most confidence in talking about.
Yeah, so it's a space where you finally had in your own life been able to afford a physical home for you, being in a more stable relationship, so that you're able to process and work through a lot of this trauma you've been through, all these voices saying you're not creative enough, you don't look right, you shouldn't be on camera. And like that's a huge deal. And do you remember like what was like the first video you remember where it wasn't like an iPhone? It was like, I'm sitting down, like, here's a camera, I'm making a video with the intent of making a video. What was that?
How I built my custom PC for $1,000.
I've seen this. Wait, it's still on your YouTube channel today.
I had purple hair then.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And I got so much from the PC community.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because, they're so hardcore.
Oh, so you like weren't doing everything the way they wanted
Oh, yeah.
you
It
to?
wasn't like optimal because the parts were hard to order and you'd have to wait a long time.
I mean, this is literally, see, people don't often realize they see, oh, wow, she's not doing this. Like, this is literally your first video ever.
Yeah.
And you're just like doing something on camera.
Yes. That was wild. But the reason why I went into content way more full-fledged, like why I felt this like burst, I want to go back to that, was because I worked so hard in my tech career, but because I look like this, I go through a lot of challenges. And oftentimes, even if I were the one who made the biggest launches, who led and made the impact and drove, 10x returns on something, I would not get the credit for it. Like my name would be taken out, and in the press articles, in the blog, in the all hands, it would be some random director VP who was so removed from the project that I've never even met them before. And I felt so erased. I felt so invisible. And so what I did was I just turned to social media and shared amongst my friends. At least it would be real for me. At least I could still be visible in that respect. And then I just kept doing it over and over again, and then went a little bit more public. And through the videos, I decided my first few videos were just topics that I thought were important in the YouTube base. And then I'd eventually bring in my own stories after I learned my editing chops. Yeah.
I love that too, because as you've described, people weren't seeing you. You're a minority in multiple senses of the word.
Oh, yeah.
As a woman, as an Asian American, as someone who, it's not like you went to MIT and studied computer science, which I didn't either. But there's so many layers of this that it can be so tiring to try and constantly fight for that recognition, that credit.
Yeah, you just lose right away. Like, you don't say anything. For me, I walk into a meeting room, I've already lost half the room. That's it.
Just off of impression.
Correct.
Which you can overcome, but the point is you have to put in more cognitive work and load to overcome it, and you're aware of that pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was really, really rough. And that was the whole reason why I wanted to get onto Forbes 30 under 30.
Which you did.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, she's 30.
Now I am.
But you hit Forbes.
I did.
It's a huge point of validation.
Yeah, because I've always been labeled as young and experienced. She's the assistant, not the partner manager.
Wow.
Yeah, you get that. And then I always get random questions of, oh, did you just graduate? What school, or what are you studying? Are you the intern?
Just hold out your Forbes cover.
And I think that once upon a time, I did want to be a startup founder, and I didn't want to let age be the thing that would hold people back from investing in me or thinking that I'd be a good leader. So I thought accolades where they celebrate youth and to put talent and youth together, those are the places I need to be so that I can build my case that, age is just a number and I can really be a great leader.
I really understand that. I wanted to be Forbes 30 under 30 as well. And I didn't make it. my co-founder did. So our company was recognized, but I was like 5 months too old. And I felt really sad about it. And I talked to my co-founder. My co-founder's the type where he actually didn't care at all. He didn't even want to list it anywhere. But I did. And I thought a lot about why. And I was like, well, I have gained a lot of self-confidence when in times of doubt and trouble, I can at least turn back and say, like, here's the things that I did. That nothing in this world is truly objective, but these are quote unquote accomplishments. And in times where I doubt myself, at least I have that to fall back on. I really saw Forbes as a similar element in that. Here's something I can say that I accomplished, even if everything goes to right?
But accolades are not accomplishments.
Right. That's true. And I think for me, I was like, you know what? I do still care a lot of what people think and see me as. That recognition, it still matters to me. And that's okay. You know, I am still learning to develop my own self-confidence, and it's okay to feel sad about it. I'm so happy you got it, by the way.
Thank you.
And I am so curious. You mentioned for a while you wanted to be a startup founder, and now you don't.
Yeah.
So as a startup co-founder, I'm curious what changed.
It's a lot of work. Yeah. Just was in my mindset, Silicon Valley. That's the dream. That's like the end goal. But it's a lot of responsibility, and it's not like that cute. It's not a fun life.
It kind of goes back to when you were 1 year old. 1 year old, you chose the paintbrush.
Yeah, paintbrush.
Yeah, you didn't choose. I don't know what the version of that for like a startup founder would be.
Probably money.
Like a dollar bill.
Yeah, I would probably, yeah.
Well, that's an interesting question. So like the dream, is it to have as many dollars? Is it to have so much creative freedom? Is it to have a chill life? What is it?
Oh my God. I just did this on my 2024 life planning. It's called CHIF.
That sounds weirdly sexual. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to explain that more.
So I want to live a life of CHIF, which is C stands for creativity, H stands for health, I is impact, L is love, and F is freedom.
Okay, great concept. Acronym.
I can't. I don't know what other way to order it, okay?
Okay, because
give me a better idea.
You're familiar with like MILF, right?
Yeah. So
when
I
you
thought it'd be funny.
When you put CHILF, child.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
Yeah.
just so we're aware.
We're aware.
Also, wow, that's a lot of creativity, health, impact, love, freedom. I definitely got some of those wrong. That's a lot of things, but that's the North Star.
It's that, and then the subtext is and remove everything that has nothing to do with those.
Wow.
I think that needs to be intentional.
Do you think there are things you're doing now that don't feed into those?
Oh, yes. Well, like work was, I guess, but
That solved itself.
yeah, kind of. I think it was really like my job was my job, and it was really functionally a career that I needed to build to be financially safe.
I remember too, we had a call before the layoffs happened where you were like, how do I fit this all in and balance it?
I don't
Because your
know. I
job
was
was
freaking
taking
out.
so much time. If you could do everything over again, would you play your life back the
Yes.
same way?
No.
Unequivocal, immediate yes.
No. Hold on. I think I didn't hear the question,
Oh.
and then
You got excited.
I got really excited. So,
What did you think I was asking?
did you have regrets? Yes.
That is not what I was asking. But
Yeah.
good to know. What do you mean?
Like,
Well, now
what would you change anything if you go back?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, what would you change?
Two things. One, don't date men.
So you're saying you'd like to be born a lesbian or asexual?
Just don't date a couple of
Roommate.
men.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't men. It was just don't date these men.
Yeah, just like don't go for those guys. Like no matter what they say, I feel like I would have turned out the same if I hadn't had those experiences. It was so traumatizing.
Like you didn't gain anything from
Like
it. You
I think
didn't meet
I
this.
became a worse person. Now I have that trauma, and I re-trigger into the same cycles.
Mm.
If you know what I mean,
Yeah, of
those
course.
spirals.
Yeah.
Now you have that habit that you
Yeah.
can, right? So that exposure, I feel like makes me a worse person.
Yeah, just I don't know if worse, but like it's just there, and you have to
Yeah,
think about
it's
it, and
there.
you have to adjust for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a wound that I have to keep healing over
Yeah.
and over again. Sucks. I mean, I did learn a lot from it,
Yeah.
but I'm a bitter hoe, so so I think I don't need that. Second is to sing earlier in my life.
Wow.
Mm.
You are in so many different creative realms. You draw, you're learning fonts, you create content, beautiful long form vlogs, brilliantly edited short form, and you have just a great sense of design as well. There's this whole area of your life too around singing.
Yes.
Out of all of those different dimensions, you're picking singing as the one to call out you wish you had done
Oh, yeah.
first. Why?
It's really hard to sing as an adult growing up. Like your vocal cords change. I have to unlearn a lot of bad habits. It's just like learning language as a kid is just so much easier.
Oh, so things have set and it's harder to go back and change.
It's so hard. I have such bad habits, and I just really wish I trained it.
When you think of your own thought patterns, are there things that you wish now to unlearn?
I guess my third would be to adopt the mindset I have today, which is your life is what you make of it kind of thing. And it's not that deep, bro. And you hate to see it. You love to see it. I think this new life, I just honestly wish I had 10, 15 years ago. Life would have changed dramatically. But in that same line of thought, with that same type of thinking, we would just say, well, now you have it. Like, there's no point going back and thinking, oh, you should have had it then.
Yeah.
It do be like that.
It is.
Go next.
I love how a lot of the initial videos that you did that blew up were very career focused around being product manager.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing more is much more life advice, which matches with the shift in your content. It's been much more about your life and the positivity. What I really like too is a lot of creators fall into a trap where they chase the views and the algorithm.
Yeah.
You chose to move on to new topic area, even though it's actually getting less views.
Okay, now we're talking about content strategy and philosophy, which is a whole other...
Oh, what is the content philosophy?
Well, I mean, there's definitely tons of schools of thoughts, lots of beliefs. And for me, I just wanted to create videos and content that I would be proud of and that my friends would not cringe at. And like they would like to.
Yeah. Your whole content has always been about your life. When things happen, whether they're good or bad, how to make sense of it and what you're going to do next. Even your layoff videos fit within that context and vein. When you see people's reactions, one of the things I've heard a lot of people really get upset about is you're embarrassing yourself because why should you be talking about this so publicly? And I feel like they just don't get it because content is how you're able to express your voice that otherwise might not be heard.
Yeah.
You don't often get to hear from people who are laid off.
Yeah. And I think going back to how you said when you were fired, you felt you held it in, you kept it a secret for a long time. And I just don't want this to haunt me. And for me, I'm the type to rip off the Band-Aid. Let it out there, let it be known. Eventually someone will know and then we can move on.
Were you scared to post the content?
I think I was more scared of posting the TikTok video. And yes, I was scared of the layoff video, but I've gone through this before and this is these are my principles. I cannot live my life unless I am able to express the things I'm going through and to control the narrative. What I don't want is to be silenced and someone else to control it for me. I want to be the one who gets to share what's going on. Although I should be more PR trained, to be honest. Like I need to be more refined about it. But I think that helps me process a lot.
I think the reason why so many people have watched it is because you're not PR trained. You are a little scuffed.
Not great. I'm scuffed. Thanks.
Inauthentic in the best way. You're real about it. What are you thinking of doing next?
Oh, I mean, today I just posted my starting over at 30 short film. My first short film was very American Barren style. And I loved it so much. I loved creating it. I loved writing it. I loved seeing how people reacted to it and how it's like touched them. And I was able to share it in such a poetic, artistic way. And I was like learning so much about the creative storytelling process, how to do angles, how to like stabilize, how to create lighting in different environments, light, day, food, and what colors match. That was super cool. Yeah.
It's ironic that it was being laid off that has freed you so much creatively, not only to explore these different dimensions of yourself, but also as a full-time creator. Now you have an agent.
Oh, yes. I have a manager.
You have a manager.
Yeah.
You have probably increased brand deal interest after seeing the views and engagement that you've been getting.
I mean, I hope so. I've gotten a lot of interest for sure. I mean, I'm sure some brands would be like, oh, that's like negative. I don't want to touch that.
Yeah.
But I think it's not like everyone has tough times. Like everyone probably says something that has negative press in this space, I guess. And I really think it's how you spin it, how you move from it, how you react to it is what makes a difference. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do well. I'm really shocked at how viral everything went. My first time going through it.
You didn't expect it to hit that reach?
Oh no, of course not. I mean, I guess
Wow.
like in retrospect, like I guess that makes sense. But I mean, I've put out so many different videos and nothing ever hits, and I'm just like, I'll just keep doing what I keep doing. I thought it'd be like good, but I didn't think it'd go so insanely viral. Where 25 mil on one video.
Look, you've talked about your emotional experiences. You've been respectful, but there's always, especially for me, and I wonder for yourself as well, that little fear where you're like, oh, well, I also want to make sure I do this right.
Mm-hmm.
And will this come back and bite me in the butt? I love that even on a meta level, when we were figuring out about deciding to go forward and doing this podcast, and if you're watching and you're hearing beeps and blurs when we say Discord, you'll know why. We thought a lot too about, hey, not only do we want to talk about it in this context, we also want to start our own podcast together.
We do.
And for our own podcast, how much should we even acknowledge and talk about the layoffs? Because we've been planning this for months.
Yes.
It's going to be The Joy of Missing Out by Chloe and Eric. Also, you can abbreviate to the JOMO pod. And we meant it as a very reflective slice of life on, hey, when you're getting older, you realize you don't need to do every single thing in life. You can choose and be conscious of the things that you want to do, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're watching this right now, we are launching the JOMO pod very soon.
It's a weekly episodic podcast where Eric and I catch up on our lives and talk about what the things that we've done and didn't do and missed out on or decided to stay up all night figuring out doing. So I hope you enjoy it. It's really casual. It's really cozy. And hope you're able to tune in.
We'll put the text of the handle right here, JOMO pod. Beautiful. Thanks so much for watching.
Thanks, y'all. See you next time. Bye-bye.
That was good.
Yay.